This week in game news, Brad Muir has joined Valve Software, the PS4's price has dropped to $349.99 in the United States and Canada, Star Wars Battlefront has gone into beta, and many fans of the series are less than impressed. Video game voice actors in the SAG-AFTRA union have voted to go on strike in order to secure better working conditions, stunt pay for vocally stressful sessions, and higher residuals for game sales. Actors supporting this strike include Will Wheaton, Steve Blum, Tara Strong, and many others. Also, we have this awesome piece of Kerbal Space Program art from Redditor The King of Beat. We thank The King of Beat for letting us run this piece of art on our show. You can check out the source of the work at blackmanandrobin.com. Also, if you're a big fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, you'll be pleased to know that Sonic the Hedgehog 2 has gotten a 3D remake for the Nintendo 3DS. This week, we're at the 2015 New York Comic Con. You can expect all the latest news from that next week. This is the Blackman and Robin Game News Update. To begin with, the PSP emulator PPSSPP version 1.1 is out now. In case you've not heard of it, PPSSPP enables you to play PSP games on Android. The latest update to the emulator brings support for Android TV, think NVIDIA Shield, performance fixes, a homebrew store for downloading PSP apps made by fans, and some other improvements. In addition to being available on Android, PPSSPP is also available for iOS, Windows, Mac, Linux, BlackBerry, Symbian, and more. I don't know who's still using a Symbian-based device these days, but apparently these folks still have more options for PSP emulation than Windows Phone users. Rock Band 4 was released this week. Remember Rock Band? Between that franchise and Guitar Hero, the market for rhythm games with plastic instruments became horribly oversaturated a few years back. Well, both game franchises are making a return, and Rock Band 4 is up to bat first. Rock Band 4 discards the keyboard from the previous game in the series, but beyond that, you can still use your old instruments with a new game. Although if you are using an Xbox One, you'll need a legacy game controller adapter, which ships with the physical edition of Rock Band 4. The game has gotten pretty good reception thus far. It's been criticized, however, for lacking some elements of previous installments in the franchise, such as the practice mode. For the most part, however, it's still the Rock Band you know and love, and it's out now for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
Insecticons!
Also released this week was Transformers Devastation, a third-person action game from Platinum. This is the same Platinum games responsible for Bayonetta, The Wonderful 101, and the upcoming Star Fox Zero. Transformers Devastation boasts a really cool cel-shaded look and has thus far gotten pretty good reception from critics. It's a game that takes after the classic cartoons more so than a certain live-action version of a franchise, and it's available for the Xbox One, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and Windows. If you're after a fighting game with your favorite anime characters, you may want to look at Dengeki Bunko Fighting Climax, which has just seen a Western release this week. The game includes characters from Durarara, Excel World, Sword Art Online, and more. Dengeki Bunko Fighting Climax is out now for the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita.
I've been in this godforsaken hole too long.
After 3 years, Prison Architect finally left early access on Steam. In the game, you're running a prison, and it's up to you to build cells, hire staff, manage your prisoners, and try to prevent riots, escapes, and other mayhem. The game has gotten great reception from both players and the press. Prison Architect is often cited as an example of how to do early access right, as Introversion Software released monthly updates accompanied by videos of the developers explaining what has changed, the state of the game, and where things would be heading next. Prison Architect is currently available for Mac, Windows, and Linux.
Full version now available. Have you got what it takes to keep us in? is an Architect by Introversion Software.
Okay, I see a bomb. It's got wires, a button, keypad.
In other law enforcement video game news, Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes was released this week, and it's one of the more unique virtual reality games out now, taking good advantage of the potential for VR. Essentially, one player wears a VR headset and is in a room with a bomb, while the other players need to go through a 23-page printed manual to figure out how to defuse the bombs. It's a frantic game that calls for careful communication between players, and the game has garnered much praise thus far. If you have an Oculus Rift or Samsung Gear VR, it's worth getting your hands on. The game is also coming to Sony's PlayStation VR at some point in the future. Meanwhile in Thailand, the government is planning on funneling all the country's internet traffic through a single gateway for the sake of controlling what comes into the country. The project has been dubbed the Great Firewall of Thailand, and it has a lot of people upset, gamers included. While internet censorship is an issue in Thailand already, this planned gateway would cause bigger problems for people who play video games. Gamers and many others took part in a DDoS that took down the Thai government's websites last week. Beyond internet censorship, Thailand is also known for banning video games. Quite famously, the game Tropico 5 was banned in the country. Tropico 5, mind you, is a strategy game in which you play as an oppressive dictator. During a press conference for their upcoming Windows 10 devices, Microsoft showed off an augmented reality demo with HoloLens. Robots burst into the room, shooting lasers, and a virtual gauntlet covered the hand of a HoloLens-wearing demonstrator. It looked pretty neat, and came with the announcement that the HoloLens developer kit would be available to purchase for $3,000. That's a little bit much. There's no word on how much the consumer edition of the HoloLens will cost, but if it's near as much as the developer edition, it's going nowhere fast unless it can somehow replace my PC, my Xbox, and my washing machine. For comparison, the first Oculus Rift developer kit from the device's crowdfunding campaign cost $300. That's 1/10 the cost for more than 10 times the market share of HoloLens. Both augmented and virtual reality have rocky histories. While VR tried and failed initially to take off during the 90s, it's becoming more successful these days, and VR games are gaining quick adoption. Augmented reality games, on the other hand, gained a bit of popularity with the rise of smartphones, and the Nintendo 3DS even ships with the AR game Face Raiders. So while VR had a hard crash and is seeing a good reboot, AR has always just been hanging on by a thread. Whether or not augmented reality gaming takes off remains to be seen. If the cost is absurd and the experiences are limited, however, AR isn't going anywhere fast. Over in TF2 news, the Invasion update hit Team Fortress 2 this week, and interestingly enough, this month-long event was actually designed by the TF2 community itself. As you may have guessed, the Invasion involves a fight with aliens and is full of opportunities to get your hands on special alien-themed items and cosmetics. Perhaps Valve will do something similar with Dota 2 at some point? Seeing as the last big update to Dota 2 brings modding, there's a good chance of it. The beautiful ARPG Animal Gods is coming out on Steam for Windows, Mac, and Linux on October 12, 2015. It looks truly gorgeous. In Animal Gods, you play as Thistle, a hunter, and you explore a lost world. And, of course, you save it from evil. The game was a Kickstarter success, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the finished product turns out. In addition to its upcoming PC release, Animal Gods is also coming out on the Wii U.
Welcome, friends! I am Doric, king and ruler of the majestic kingdom of Arbor. It seems the once peaceful monsters living amongst us have become cursed, attacking humans left and right. Yes, a mysterious darkness has befallen our great nation. Only with the might of 12 courageous heroes combining their skills and strength will we be able to rid the land of this curse. Now come, let us begin our journey to seek out the root of this evil.
Coming out next week is Dragon Quest Heroes, The World Tree's Woe and The Blight Below. The game is coming to the PlayStation 4 from Koei Tecmo Games and is set to be released on October 13, 2015. In this game, the once peaceful fantasy creatures inhabiting the world have gone mad, and it's the duty of some plucky young heroes to find out what's going on and restore peace. I'm honestly not that familiar with the Dragon Quest franchise, but I really like the game's art style. The characters were designed by Akira Toriyama, who you may know for his work on Dragon Ball and Chrono Trigger. Halo 5 Guardians is coming to the Xbox One on October 27, 2015, and its limited edition will be accompanied by Halo: The Fall of Reach. Halo: The Fall of Reach is not a new game, but an animated series in 3 acts. It's an adaptation of Eric Nyland's novel of the same name. A trailer was released for it this week, and it looks pretty good. I have my reservations about the style of animation used for the faces, but otherwise it seems quite promising.
It's this object. It destroyed the Vostok in Arabia in under a minute.
Humanity is what will save us all.
This is Project Mjolnir.
Soldiers are made, not born.
We're the best possible option. Your only option. Blue team is ready.
A trailer was released for the next new character in the upcoming Street Fighter V, Lara. Mind you, this is the same character who was leaked last week. We chose not to run the leaked content on the Blackman and Robin Game News update. This week, Lara was officially revealed at the Brazil Game Show. She's a newcomer to the series who uses Jiu-Jitsu and her special thunderclap ability that zaps her opponents. If you're either at the Brazil Game Show or at the New York Comic-Con, you'll be able to try her out early. This week, Capcom also unveiled new details about Street Fighter V's upcoming global beta, which takes place from October 22nd to 25th, 2015, and will be the testing ground for cross-platform play between the PlayStation 4 and PC. Beta access will be available to players who pre-order the game. As we reported on a few months ago, Lab Zero Games, the studio behind Skullgirls, is creating an ARPG called Indivisible, and it looks great. This week, the game's crowdfunding campaign went live on Indiegogo. In the game, you play as a girl named Aina from a little rural town. You were raised by your father in the martial arts in order to defend your town. Your training comes in handy when said town comes under attack by warlords. Around the same time as the attack, you discover that, much like Kirby, you can absorb the abilities of other beings. The developers are aiming to make the game about 20 to 30 hours long. That's about on par with something like Chrono Trigger and Valkyrie Profile, the latter of which was a big inspiration to Indivisible. If Indivisible looks to be up your alley, but you'd like to try it before you buy it, there's a prototype available to download from the Indiegogo page, which we've linked to at blackmanandrobin.com. Indivisible is set to be released in 2018 for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Mac, Windows, and Linux. In other crowdfunding news, the Kickstarter for From Bedrooms to Billions, the Amiga Years Special Edition is now live. In case you've not heard of From Bedrooms to Billions, it's a documentary that was kickstarted earlier in the year quite successfully. The filmmakers are now interested in creating a special edition focusing on the Amiga, a computer that had a powerful impact on the game industry and, interestingly enough, turned 30 this week. If you're interested in knowing more about the history of PC gaming as well as the industry, and you'd like to know about the impact that the Amiga had, you should definitely check this out. One last crowdfunding project that we have to share with you is for a surreal point-and-click adventure game called Memoranda, inspired by the works of author Haruki Murakami. Memoranda falls into the genre known as magic realism, a well-loved branch of literature that has steadily been making inroads on the world of video games. You may have heard of Kentucky Route Zero, which falls into the category. Memoranda is a game about loss. You play as a person who is steadily losing her own name and possibly the rest of her memory. Personally, I find myself drawn to the game's art style. The story, too, seems quite interesting. The game is on track to be released this December for Mac, Linux, and Windows, and if the developers hit a stretch goal, it'll also be coming to iOS. You can check out Memoranda and the other crowdfunding projects at blackmanandrobin.com. Just look for our post about the October 10th, 2015 Game News Update. This week, Ubisoft unveiled the upcoming Far Cry Primal. This entry in the Far Cry series is set in the Stone Age. You play as Takar, a hunter struggling to survive in a world full of dangers. You lead a growing tribe and try not to get everybody killed by rival tribes. Far Cry Primal is set to be released on February 23rd, 2016 for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Windows. A jazzy trailer was released for the upcoming This Is the Police, an adventure strategy game in which you play as Police Chief Jack Boyd. You're surrounded by corruption, crooked cops, and the seedy underbelly of the city. The game was a success on Kickstarter some months ago, and I have to say that the upcoming product looks quite good. The game is set to be released for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and is currently on Steam Greenlight. According to the developers, the graphics in the game are still being worked on. Personally, I like the look of the game. That said, I'm sure it'll be aesthetically stunning once it's all polished up. Dust and Legion Tale is coming to iOS. If you own an iPhone or an iPad with at least 1 GB of RAM, you'll be able to play this beautiful, critically acclaimed Metroidvania by Dean Dodrill. The game was a smash hit when it debuted on the Xbox 360 and went on to see further success on PC. I'm looking forward to seeing how the game handles its controls on mobile devices. No release date was provided. It's said to be coming soon.
There is a legend, the oldest of Elysian tales. It speaks of a warrior who wields that very blade. You, Dust, will turn the tide.
Well, No pressure or anything.
Finally, we have the trailer for a game called Astroneer. Set in a near future in which space travel is significantly cheaper and faster, there's a sort of gold rush of companies heading for the stars. You play as an astroneer, badly trained and ill-equipped to conquer the canyons of Mars, or any other planet, really. It's an exploratory game that's in development for PC. Well, that's it for this week's game news. Be sure to follow at Blackman and Robin on Twitter and Instagram for all the latest game news, reviews, previews, and interviews. Be sure to follow me at Jordan_Cameron for my own views.
My name is Amy Wellard, and I'm dying. This country was destroyed by war. Now it's choking on a plague. It's all I've ever known. I've got all the symptoms. Odds are I don't have long. But there's a cure. I know it. It's got to be out there. Somewhere. A false hope? Maybe. But hope is all I got. So I keep going. I keep fighting. I don't know any other way to be. But if I can survive just one more day, just one more hour, maybe I'll be okay. Maybe we'll all be okay. My name is Amy Wellard, and I'm gonna live.